Good morning. So for math today, what we're going to be looking at is how to use or to measure angles using a protractor. So far in geometry, we've looked at the different types of angles, benchmark angles like 90, 45, 60. We looked at different types of polygons and quadrilaterals, but we haven't actually looked at how to measure angles using a protractor. Now, to be honest with you, I doubt you've done this before. I don't think you've done this in grade 3, so this is going to be a bit new. What is a protractor? Well, this is a protractor. This is a digital version of a protractor, but you've got these in your classroom, and you'd be able to see, it'll look basically the same as this. So basically, a protractor has all these numbers. It has two sets of numbers over here. One set of numbers goes 180 all the way down to 0, and on the outside, 0 all the way to 180. So you recognize those numbers probably just from angle values. So for example, if 0 is here, 90 degrees is straight above it, and you know that a 90-degree angle, it goes like that. So basically, to measure an angle using a protractor, let's just quickly draw an angle here just so that you can see what I'm talking about. So let's see if my angle goes like this. If I want to measure my angle with my protractor, I'm going to take my protractor and the middle of, there we are. The middle dot on my protractor, that semicircle, has got to go on where the angle turns. All right, so right on the point, the vertice there where it turns. It should be lined up on the bottom line towards 0. One of the lines should be lined up towards 0. All right, so there's my line there, lined up towards 0. And wherever the other line is, that is the angle measurement. So you'll see here, it's 120 and 130 is here. So I'm just going to count just like a ruler, and I'm counting millimeters. I'm going to count the angle degrees. So 20, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125 is the slightly longer one. This is approximately 126 degrees. All right. Now, whoops. How do I get that? Let me just get that out of there. So it's approximately 126 degrees. And there we go. That's better. So now the question is, how do I know to use these numbers as opposed to these numbers? That is an excellent question. And it actually is a bit tricky to figure out. The way that I understand it is, you look at the angle. If the angle is clearly bigger than 90 degrees, so 90 degrees is a right angle straight up, perpendicular from the base there. If I know it's bigger than 90 degrees, then I'm going to use the numbers that are bigger than 90 degrees. So for example, if this was on this side, and this was my angle here that I had to measure, right? So say I have to measure this angle. I'm just going to make it a little better as far as being lined up properly. There we go. And I had to measure this angle. There we go. And it's still over here. You'll see it's still at 126. But I don't, I'm not gonna, it's clearly smaller. Like from there to there, it's clearly smaller than a square corner. It's smaller than 90 degrees. So I'm not going to use this angle. I'm going to use this angle. This angle says that it's approximately 54, probably, or 55, somewhere around 54 degrees. So in that case, this angle would be 54. So let's take a look. I found a cool website that has a lot of different ways of measuring angles and showing you what the angles are. So here's an angle that's just on grid paper, and it's, it goes this way, and I'm going to take if you click on this, a protractor is going to show up here. I'm going to drag my, whoops. Oh, how do you get the protractor to go on top of that? Wonder if I can drag the angle. Nope. Well, this is interesting. What was working before? Okay, so interesting. So the protractor is not working, so that's not going to work for me at all. So Okay, well, never mind then. This just goes and shows you a bunch of different angles, right? So you can actually see how to measure. That's clearly a 90 degrees. If I had my protractor and I could actually get it to move, but for some reason it won't let me do that, which is a bit weird. Um, yeah. Oh well. Um, so basically, angle measurements are done by trying to figure out what numbers go with the angle, if it's the bigger number or the smaller number, and also you line it up right at the center. So one of the mistakes people sometimes make is they line it up at the bottom of the protractor. You can see how that messes up my angle, right? So you can line up with that semicircle in the middle of the semicircle in the bottom. That has to be right along that line so that it goes to 0 and 180, right? 0 and 180. And then you look at where the other line lines up. So in this case, it's going to be 54. So if I was going to, for example, say I wanted to measure a different angle, let's try something like this. So you can see that that angle is actually quite close to being just a straight line. It's not a straight line, but it's pretty close. I'm going to line up my semicircle where the angle changes so that the line is right along the bottom there. And then I'm going to look at it this way. Now, this is way bigger than 180. I mean, sorry, way bigger than 90. There's my 90 degrees. It's way bigger. So I know I'm not using the top numbers. I'm using the bottom numbers. And it's between 160 and 170. And I think it's a little closer to 160. I'm thinking that's 164. And that's how I would measure that angle. All right, so just a little quick lesson on protractors. This is a really difficult lesson to do virtually, I have to say, because, I mean, as far as getting you to practice, because unless you have a protractor at home and could just draw some angles on your own, it's difficult for me to actually show you how to use one. So what I'm going to do is find a website that will allow, better than the one I just used, that will allow you to do a little bit of practice on this and see if you can practice with these protractors. This is something you're going to be doing a lot in grade 5 and grade 6 and grade 7 and grade 8 and so on, and right through high school. So learning how to use one of these things, it's a good tool to know. All right, that's all for now.